Okay, the little box just turned a different color, so that means we are live with our HTBox community stand-up. We're focusing on AllReady, which is our open source ASP.NET Core project. We're going to talk a little bit about where the project's at, some of the things that are upcoming, and then what we're doing with some milestones and such. We used to say we do these every other week pretty regularly. Then, winter and the holidays that come at the end of the year came, and then we weren't so regular. And then we did one, I think, last around mid-May. It's been about 7 weeks. We anticipate doing another one of these in a week or two, certainly not in 7 weeks from now. So just to give a quick update on the project, even though we haven't had a stand-up, and it seems like everybody's first half of 2017 has certainly been a busy half of the year. Nonetheless, we continue to have a lot of great contributions. So definitely want to thanks folks for continuing making pull requests, driving commits, and closing out issues. I can't remember the stats the last time we had a stand up, but we're at 132 contributors now. So 132 folks who have added something to the project from a code point of view. We've got over 3,100, over 3,000 commits. And we have, continue to have a number of issues and stuff, but I know just this week alone, we closed out about a dozen pull requests. So project remains very active and we've got folks on it. What we'll do today is we'll talk a little bit about, Steve will give a couple sentences of some of the things he's looking into. Jim will talk a bit about where we're going with the project and some of the stuff that'll happen literally in the next couple of months, it looks like. And then I'll close it out with how you can see those issues and how you can contribute to the releases that we want to drive between now and roughly September. So, Steve, I know you've been, like all of us, had a busy first half, but you've had a chance to kind of start jumping in here. What you looking at?
Absolutely, yeah. So been out of it for a bit of that 7 weeks, but we're just we've got a number of epics in there around some of the features we last discussed with sort of the team that were required. So around adding event managers, campaign managers. So got a different granularity to the sort of management of different elements within the system. So just sort of picking up those issues now, working out, what we've achieved sort of this first half of the year, what's left, and plotting the course for those items. And there's an element of that is around how we're going to actually invite people to become an event or campaign manager. So we've got that sort of set of work scheduled in there. There's lots of issues around that. Many of them are sort of up for grabs from people if people want to jump in on those. And I'll be taking a look over the next week or so to see, if any of those need some clarity or questions answering.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and we're definitely, when you go in there and look, folks, there's the issues, there's the jump-in tag I think we use, so you can filter on that. As well as we're going to be loading quite a few new issues, new epics, new features, new functionality to be implemented. And I think Jim will talk a little bit about where we're thinking of going.
Sure. So the American Red Cross as an organization has a big campaign event coming up in late September into October, in which the organization is going to attempt to install 100,000 smoke alarms across the country in about 3 weeks. And so where I am in Chicago, the goal is that we've got to do 2,000 of those ourselves. And there are 100 other cities who are also going to be kind of part of this, but we're going to focus on Chicago. And what that means is lots of big rally events on the weekends, but also the need to be as productive as, say, the cable TV companies in going at least as productive, and trying to go out every day. And get smoke alarms into people's homes, and so the two kind of main events that we have in this application that we need to manage, the big kind of Saturday rally events and the day-to-day installations. We need to get the application basically up and running to handle those both of those types of events. So that all begins on September 23rd. And then runs over 4 weekends, three weeks total, I believe. And so we have an opportunity to really put this thing to the test with our volunteers and really try to make the experience for them not only more efficient, but much more enjoyable, because they've got tools that are helping them get this work done faster. So I think in terms of where we are, versions, Tony will talk about this in a little bit more detail. You know, we're kind of at that. All right, we've got our V1. We're satisfied with that. We're going to be doing some actual user testing, but then really moving towards kind of these next issues and what do we need to have so that we can give a volunteer, or give a group of volunteers, usually they go out in teams of 3, that we give them basically a list of homes that have signed up for installations, and that we allow them to kind of go through that itinerary and hit each home at a kind of a prescribed time, that they're communicating back and forth with the homeowners, or usually or renters in most cases, actually, and that they're able to do that work as efficiently as possible. So I think we were looking at the calendar. We were starting to think about this. It was April and May, and August, September seems very far away. But now we're well into June, and so this is something that's coming at us quickly. So we're going to be working really hard to get issues posted and really start pushing this thing to that next version.
Excellent. Yeah, it's one of those things where, just like missing 7 weeks since our last stand-up, things seem far away until they're not.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to be focused on that. So to kind of translate that a little bit into what we'll be doing specifically with the project, a few weeks ago, Jim and Pascal, both looking at this for the Red Cross as well as for other organizations, met with Emily, who's been working volunteering as project manager, which has been great. Kind of discussed through what those requirements, what the potential gaps and feature needs are, listed those out. We did a little bit of a review back and forth. She's going to start following some of the patterns that Steve and I have used in the past for putting an epic and then sub-issues. She's going to document them, get them posted out there. We'll make sure that Jim, Pascal, and I are always available to answer questions and stuff. But we'll get those issues published out there. Some of it will be, here's a bug that needs to be fixed. Some of it will be, sort of, here's how it works, but it would be nicer if it worked this way, or sand off a sharp corner, so to speak. And then some of them will be net new functionality, or maybe tying things together a little bit differently than we have, based upon that user testing that you talked about, Jim. So what you'll see is that we're really looking at getting a handful of milestones here, and I'm going to pull them up here so make sure I speak correctly. Right now, I've got the V1 release milestone, and I'm tagging it for the end of this month, the end of June. And it's got a number of issues tied to it. And I'm going to be spending a little bit of time, and I'm going to ask Steve and James to help me go through and just triage, like, what are real blocking, blow up, sort of makes the app, a problematic user experience. We'll keep those in V1. Everything else we'll put into our technical or feature backlog, depending on where they fit. And then as Emily and all of us go in and publish the new issues, the new epics, the new stories, we'll pull those into, we have a V1.5 release that we're targeting for August 21st, which to your point, Jim, is roughly 2 months from now, is roughly 7, 8 weeks from now. And so we'll document what's the new feature functionality, all those things that I listed there. We'll also probably pull in some of those issues we moved out of V1 that weren't critical to be done, quote unquote, today, but would definitely be critical for the V1.5 as we move forward. And then one extra piece, which we've done work here and there with, and we've had some great support from a number of mobile developers, but then there's a V1.6 release that we're targeting for September 15th to line up with those dates you talked about. And key there will be certainly any last issues that are identified during later phases of user testing, because we really want this thing to be solid when it gets in the hands of everybody in late September. And additionally, we want to layer in the mobile app side of things. And we expect that to take 2 or 3 forms. One part of it is the mobile app, so as a volunteer, I can see what I'm signed up for. I can see what I'm doing within a day of volunteering, be it a rally or an itinerary. Second part is the ability to be able to sort of say, we've completed this one, we haven't completed this. It can trigger some of the communications we want. So like the proverbial cable company you referred to, we can do things like saying, hey, we'll be there in 20 minutes because we just finished, or you're on the schedule for today, we expect to be there at noon, stuff like that. And then there's a third part, which we're not sure we'll build into our app, as much as maybe we'll use some other mobile applications that allow configuration and then integration into our system to do things around gathering, and Jim knows all the details here, but we won't go through now, gathering sort of the outcomes and the reporting data. So yes, I installed, yes, I communicated this, maybe this is how many things we did, et cetera, et cetera. Some of that data that's needed to know the outcome of what you did. And the reason why I said we might not do it on our own app is, we don't want to recreate the wheel, to use that overused phrase. There might be some other apps out there who already do that, give us a nice API, we can push that data over. Plus, that data will be the most variable. Virtually every campaign will have some different type of data they want to gather. So using something that's more built for that data gathering might be appropriate. And so overall, what that means is, as always, you go to our repository, which is github.com/HTBox. You find AllReady underneath there. Look at the issues. You could sort them by priority. You could filter on the jump-in tag for ones that were identified or easier as the first issue or two you work on, as well as you could look and you could filter and see the overall priority by looking at those releases. And again, we've got a V1, and very soon here in the next day or two, we'll populate V1.5 and V1.6, so you can really see, what's key to get in the hands of users. So look forward to everybody having the opportunity to contribute to the project. Again, we've had a great amount of folks doing that. We've got some upcoming codeathons. We're not quite ready to announce yet, but we will soon. And Jim or Steve, anything else before we wrap up the stand-up?
Not for me.
Nothing from me.
Okay, excellent. So we'll hopefully see all of you again in a week or two, and we'll have our next stand-up. We'll have a little bit more information on those milestones, and we'll continue forward the project. So thanks, everybody.